The events industry is turning to virtual events to face the crisis generated by the COVID-19 pandemic and the massive cancellation of physical events. Events Case wanted to support the industry by doing what it does best, putting technology at the forefront. You can now run virtual or hybrid events in minutes. There are no delays and no technical complications as we offer top-notch customer support along the way. With the new Smart TV interface in Events Case's Agenda module for both the web and the event app, event participants can access different virtual sessions with ease. As the event organizer, you simply need to add the link of your favorite streaming or video conference supplier within each session. Adding a link enables the play button for each session. Interaction amongst online attendees is also possible since the Events Case platform supports Q&A, chat and surveys in real time. Albeit from a distance, networking is still fully supported within Events Case through the new video link function in our one-to-one meeting scheduler, as well as through private messages, news feeds and forums. Events Case is an easy-to-use, global, modular, multi-language and secure event management software. Discover all our products at www.eventscase.com.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Event Tech Talk Show. A little bit of a different intro right there, a little flavour of what's to come and a preview of some of the content that we're going to be discussing today. This is a new episode, so if you missed the last episode, go to eventtechtalks.com or the Event Tech Live website and go under podcast. There's all the back catalogues of the podcast there, both in video format and in audio format as well. We encourage you to ask questions today. Do ask your questions to our guests, to me, comment, like, share. Let's get you on screen. Let's get you involved in today's content as well. Now, this episode is dubbed Partying in the Metaverse. I'm going to be chatting with Celeste Lear, who is an event producer, 3D visual artist, get my words out, DJ, and also James Will, or better known as J Will, who is the founder of stream platform VadVim. So these guys are going to be coming on. We're going to be talking about all things Metaverse, AR, XR, VR, and what the Metaverse really means for the events industry, what's already happening in the Metaverse. I think there's more happening in the Metaverse than we actually truly realize. And we're going to be tapping into, some of the stories from what they've already been up to and some of the, interesting things and projects that these guys have got going up. So without further ado, please welcome Jay Will and Celeste Lear to the Event Tech Talk Show. Hi guys, thank you very much for joining me. I know it's early morning for you, Celeste, and Jay Will. I know it's a little bit later in the day, but still thank you for joining me on today's episode. Before we jump into the Metaverse and try and explain what that is and what it means for the events industry, I want to give you guys the opportunity to give us a little background on you, how you started in the event space, and what you're involved in right now in this space. So Celeste, I'm going to start with you if that's okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. So I've been working as mostly in the music industry, entertainment, as a DJ and event producer over the last 12, 13 years, and been involved with various event production teams and very passionate about music, entertainment. I have always identified with the term futurist, and living in the Bay Area, I was really surrounded by people who are always on the cutting edge of technology, and a lot of the technology that we use for events also. My training and background is also in sound engineering and music, and I've always had a visual arts side, so I was able to find a way to blend all these together. Most recently, this last 2 years, working and playing in the Metaverse, and that also is a term for virtual reality and the different worlds that people are building in VR.
That's awesome. And Jay Will, what about yourself? How did you get started? And tell us a little bit more about VadVim.
Great. So we are, VadVim is a virtual entertainment company. I got started in the real world in terms of events and putting on and producing events of every genre, just about anything you can think of, and especially around DJ events and performances and artists. And we are also technologists, so we develop technology to allow for streaming and broadcasting of events and performances, and so we kind of married the two during COVID and extended it for virtual reality.
So what's the last 12 months been for like you guys? You know, we've had physical events taken away. I would imagine you guys have seen an explosion in the work and the requests for information and maybe requests for help and stuff like that. Am I kind of hazarding a guess right? You've been flat out over the last 12 months or so?
Absolutely. I've been, luckily I got into virtual reality in 2019 when a friend came over with goggles and let us try it in earlier. And at the end of 2018, actually in the Bay Area, there was a symposium of music-related companies and sound and entertainment-related companies that came to San Francisco for a physical show and installations of their gear for people to try. So 2018 is when I got kind of introduced to different programs, applications, and the people behind them. And so I've been following them since then, going into the metaverse to meet them and now eventually work with them.
Awesome. Jay, Will, yourself?
Yeah, so last 12 months really been crazy. With requests coming in. The really neat thing for me is that when my phone rings, it could be anybody. Some of the folks that I've looked up to my entire life, the artists have like they call my phone directly, and I don't ask how did you get my number. Inside, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to. But it's just this wow interest and wow, what's going on in virtual reality? How can we get involved? So it's been crazy.
Yeah, I think the last 12 months, especially, you know, it's been a terrible time for the events industry in general. I just went to my first physical event in like over 12 months, like 2 days ago. I actually think I felt like I forgot how to interact with big groups of people. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. I was on top of the moon, but you know, the last 12 months has massively accelerated the appetite to really understand what these technologies are doing right now and probably what they're going to be doing in the next year. And entertainment, the events industry has always been an accelerator of technology, right? Movie, film, music, audio quality streams going up, better concert infrastructure, better events. And now, you know, utilizing VR, AR, and the metaverse, we should be able to take events to that next level. That's the way that I see it. I think about my 2-year-old son in the background, and will his first event be a physical event or will it be a virtual event? Right? Who knows? But how would you define what the metaverse is? Because it sounds so alien to events, right? It sounds so disconnected. It's to some, it's probably the actual alter opposite, but it's not, right? Like, how would you define it?
I'll chime in. So the metaverse, the first term coined was from a book called Snow Crash, which was written back in the 90s. So that's the first, as far as everyone knows, in the term metaverse came up there. And so we've been referring to it lovingly as kind of like the web of all the creation, all the 3D worlds, all these different platforms that are springing up that we can go to socialize, get exercise, play video games, entertain ourselves. But yeah, metaverse, I've heard, we have a friend named Artsy who's a phenomenal 3D artist and designer. She calls herself a metaverse architect, and she's a Unity wizard and a Blender wizard. So Metaverse is, it's just, I would say, like the web of the creation that's going on right now online.
Jay, Will, would that be the definition that you give it, or have you got anything to add to that?
Well, I can define it a little more classically in the convergence of virtual reality and reality, where you get elements of virtual reality in reality and elements of reality in virtual reality. So there lots of groups have been created out of there. Work with a group of folks called Metaculture. And it's the convergence of the metaverse and culture, bringing the metaverse to culture and bringing culture to the metaverse.
That's a really good way. Do you think we'll ever? This is going to show the really geeky side of me, guys, and I'm going to
do it. Go there.
You're among friends.
You're amongst geeks.
So for me, I've watched Star Trek as a kid, right? My dad liked it. I got brought up on what my dad liked. That's my excuse. And they had a thing called a holodeck. But it was that intersection between what wasn't real and human beings. I think there's actually a theory, a theory that Cheers was actually a holodeck that all the crew from the Star Trek kind of went to experience, because it's all the same characters from an actor perspective. If you actually look through the Cheers series, do you think we'll get to that point? Do you think I will engage with other people in a virtual setting, but from my own home? Will I have like a studio that I walk into and then I can attend an event anywhere at any time? Do you think we'll get there?
I think definitely. If we look at all the developments and things that are going on, if you look at Microsoft, the HoloLens, that's what the HoloLens is really all about, bringing that virtual reality into the real world. And so, and all of the technology companies are going after kind of that augmented reality kind of experience. And I totally expect that is exactly what we'll see. We'll be able to interact just like that experience. I'm a big Star Trek fan as well. So
holoportation is already happening, and
it is.
Yeah, with mesh technology and also Microsoft HoloLens. And we've been seeing performance. In fact, there's a performance tonight inside of Altspace with a soul singer from Seattle that she is going to be using this technology, and they've started a series of these events. And you can see her as a hologram, but it's all in real time, and she's performing. Yeah, it's really fun. Actually, it's really fun to watch.
One of my very favorite bands on this planet is a band Belmont out of the UK, and we did a video release there of A Famous Son, their new video. We released that in virtual reality. And we also did a mini concert with them. They were live in the UK. We brought them in as holograms into virtual reality. Coolest thing you've ever seen in the world. Yeah.
It's really interesting you say that, J. Will, because like I've got friends in bands, and even my business partner toured Europe and Germany and played in a band kind of all across Europe. I'm not sure whether he came to the States or anything like that. But thinking about how artists used to break into a scene or get their music out there or build an audience and fans, it was a huge amount of like hard work and graft and going from place to place and roughing it and staying up late and getting up early. But now it seems to be through Celeste, something like Altspace, you could launch in front of 1 million people in seconds and overnight. Do you think the old ways of kind of breaking out as an artist and getting your music out there and things like that, do you think that's just going to change forever then using this technology?
It's so ephemeral. It's always changing. First of all, so we have some technology that we use in VR that it has to do with how many people can come to events, and also how many avatars can be in one space together. And this is something that I like to bring up when we're talking about this technology, because it's an interesting new dynamic in how we are going to be able to relate to each other and hang out and go to conferences and events in VR. The term is called instancing, or I've heard it called sharding, like a shard. And it's only a certain amount of avatars can come into one instance before the system starts to overload. It's too much information, so it rolls over to a second instance that fills up, and then it keeps going subsequently. So it's really interesting. So right now, some of the platforms, they have a 20 avatar minimum. They have alt spaces of 50, but that can increase. We've had thousands and thousands of people come in. As for millions, I don't think we're quite there yet, but the rate that technology is advancing, I wouldn't be surprised.
So does that mean that's a metaverse multiverse then? Because that
it's mind-boggling.
I concur there, and I do have to mention that event with Belmont. I work with an awesome group of folks called the Flock inside of virtual reality of alt space to bring that together. But in terms of numbers, right, and this is what we talk to the record companies about. Burning Man, great event, very famous event, came to virtual reality, and the numbers I've heard over that week of Burning Man were upwards over 100,000 people coming in. And through the technology that that Celeste is speaking about, are able to do that. And I get this all the time from my artists. Well, how many people can come into my concert, can come to my event? And it's not just 50, because that 50 room space is going to be replicated. And now I can bring in almost an unlimited amount of folks to that concert.
Yeah. It's clear to me. I was looking before we kind of jumped on today, and there's so much news out about both technology platforms like Facebook, who obviously own things like Oculus, so they've been heavily invested in kind of that VR element of technology. I'm sure like they've done an in-depth article today with The Verge about how they see themselves as the Metaverse platform, and I think that's really interesting, because kind of moving away almost from the social media element of it. It's like they've got a plan to move away from that and actually more into this side of things. And then Forbes, again, I think it was a day or 2 days ago, quoting the Travis Scott kind of content that's happened on AltSpace VR and stuff. So it's clear to see that not only the artists, but the technology, everybody's kind of invested in moving this way and really getting the technology even further than where it is now. And some of the stuff I've seen has been fantastic. What do you think some of the misconceptions, though, and the myths are? Because the first thing that kind of jumps to my mind is, right, who am I writing this check to for like $1 million, right? Like, surely it's got to be super expensive.
Well, actually, the events community can rejoice, because producing in VR is actually a bit less expensive than in real life. I think that you were talking about how people can have aversions, or there's still a lot of misunderstanding, and we philosophize about this all the time, what VR is, what it's doing, how we act, how things can change for the better and possibly, for the worse. But I'm an optimist. I really am. And since I've been stepping inside of this technology and connecting with people and building communities and building businesses around events and music, it's actually been incredibly inspirational. And I feel really uplifted. I feel really supported in my various communities. I want to say I've also, we haven't touched so much about Sansar or some of the other event platforms. Facebook Horizon is kind of has been in beta, but it's up and coming. And there's different smaller companies that are also opening up their own platforms that you can go to, like Virbella is another one you can come to on your desktop. So a lot of us in the event industry, we kind of want to focus on things that are the most accessible. So the programs that you can use on your desktop in 2D mode, along with anyone that happens to have the VR goggles and wants to come in for the full immersive experience, which I highly recommend, by the way.
I think that's a really good point, Celeste. I think everybody expects a desktop from a conference producer's point of view, maybe something like that. They want that smoothest transition from going, hey, come to a virtual event, and then here it is for you. If I'm honest, I think that's why maybe quite a lot of people are actually underwhelmed or easily distracted from these experiences at the moment.
They get overwhelmed. It's also the technology. So understanding how the technology works, educating yourself moving forward, and downloading all the apps and learning how to use them. It does take some time. It does. It's, but you'd be surprised. It's actually fairly intuitive. And a lot of the programs, the user interfaces are built specifically for people to be of ease of use.
Yeah, and then speaking of some misconceptions, we were a little disillusioned when we started doing these events. We thought that record companies and folks would be flocking to us initially for some of these events, but we found out that we really had to do some education. The perception is that it's going to be expensive to do these because they're thinking about producing this concert. They're thinking in terms of that and promoters and this and that. But it's actually, so a large part of what we did was just education of educating that it's not expensive at all, and it's a large amount of expense, which is not very expensive at all. And we're talking a couple $100 you can do things for in virtual reality and create not only a great event, but a spectacular event, because you have virtual reality. You can create these things. Someone can come in. Example, Pitbull did a concert inside of Alt Space, and he came in on a spaceship. So anything that you can dream of,
sky's the limit.
The sky's the limit.
Surely space is the limit. There is no sky.
Something that I've encountered also on a more philosophical level is an aversion, because I think that people have the sense that there's a term called transhumanism, which means that maybe you could become more machine than man, right? So I do have some friends that are a little concerned about virtual reality, but what I would say is you have to balance it. And this is what I'm saying with the event industry, is you balance it. So you're not, because it's easy to get lost in the metaverse. It's fun in there, right? But you take your goggles off, you go for a jog around the block, you live your life, you still go out, you still go to physical events, and maybe half the time you stay home sit on your amazingly comfortable couch with your VR goggles on and go to a conference and do business, or hang out and party with us and dance in your living room and try not to spill drinks when you're dancing in VR. Sippy cut. Well, that's a tip. Good tip.
Let's be very honest. I think two of the main kind of words that I hear around these types of events are accessibility and sustainability. And I think there's something really important about us as event organizers being honest and open, but also paying attention to those two topics. Yep. Events aren't inherently sustainable. We build things and we break them for like moments in time. We spend a lot of money trucking things in, building stage sets, flying people all around the world. And ultimately, we expect an audience to come from anywhere and everywhere to our event, which could involve like airfare and all that kind of stuff. But then there's the accessibility side of things. Even with all the infrastructure we've got for travel and hotels and all that kind of stuff, that still might not be an accessible event for somebody, both financially or physically. And this way, well, it's got to. Surely you guys see as well that. Do you hear the same things? Is it? Do you agree that it's a more sustainable and more accessible way to do events and stuff?
We do, and it really gets me thinking to another misconception. And I had an artist, a very famous artist, say, "No, I don't want to do virtual reality because I like that connectivity with my audience." And we've chosen the platform that we've chosen, Altspace, because it gives another level of connectivity where that concert goer that buys that ticket, unless they get a backstage pass, then there's no interactivity with the artist. But here we're showing you can have that. Hey, I'm actually having a discussion with this person right here, just that other level. So accessibility, and we have folks. And I do a lot of charity work inside of VR, outside of VR. We have folks that are challenged in many ways. and they're getting in, and this is include mental accessibility as well. So we have some people that are challenged, and they're able to get into VR, and they're able to operate and
socialize and get a social connection.
Get a social connection, and so
and
accessibility
friendship.
from many different levels
and
are available. Yeah.
On that same topic, like social anxiety, I have friends that actually have social anxiety and they feel more comfortable in VR. They've told me that they are more themselves. There's less pressure. I'm not sure exactly how the psychology works. Something else I really want to talk about, and this is very, very important, is sustainability. And we all know when there's huge events and conferences and concerts that we travel by plane, we have a large carbon footprint for a part of the events industry. And so this is something that can actually reduce the collective carbon footprint if a quarter, maybe like a fifth of the people that would traditionally go to a conference are actually staying home and attending the conference through VR. So this is something I think that's actually very important. We've been talking about this a lot in our communities, and I feel very strongly about it, actually.
I do too, yeah.
Another quick example here, one of the largest companies in the world, OpenText, and they have a policy that you can't require in-person meetings. So how do the employees get together for quarterly reviews, for the mandatory quarterly reviews? How do you get together for those meetings? So they actually did a meeting, had their quarterly meeting inside of VR, inside of Altspace. And it was accessible to everyone on that team, whether they had a headset or not, because you could come in on 2D on your computer. You can use a Mac, you can use a PC. So it was very successful.
I think that's a really interesting point, Jay, Will, because events are inherently expensive for corporations and companies to send their team members to, but it is about a lot of those events are helping educate, create business networks, connections, some real core value there. But what inherently happens with those events is the same person goes year in, year out, and nobody from the organization gets a new foot in the door, maybe until that person leaves, or they just manage to get some extra budget from somewhere to go. And what I see is that, especially in that hybrid world of still physical events with having something in virtual reality, something in VR, something accessible that way, actually what that presents for most event organizers is more people through the door overall,
absolutely.
because now they can get involved.
Actually, on the same topic, can you call up the CES pictures? Because I would actually really like to talk about this particular conference. So everyone knows the Consumer Electronics Show that happens in Vegas every year. It's an international event, and literally hundreds of thousands of people travel to Vegas. Of course, a trip to Vegas is very fun, and you don't want to miss that. But also, some people can't. So what you're looking at here is I worked with the team as a producer. I worked with Dreamland XR and Chicken Waffle VR. Chicken Waffle are amazing 3D artists and world builders. And we had corporate sponsors. For instance, I'll just start here. So this kiosk was in the Vegas lobby that our team created. This is Cleanbox, a company. The last kiosk you saw in the previous picture was Alienware. And so that's the example of what these kiosks can look like. And you can actually click a link and go into a different world where you can talk to representatives that are actually there. It doesn't, but you can talk to people in the lobby. Of course, can you scroll through a little bit more?
Yeah, sure.
So this was also built and designed by Finn Staber at Chicken Waffle. He's a very good 3D artist. So this was their conference hall that we actually had people come from all over the world stand at these podiums. We even had microphones that the avatars can pick up. What you're looking at in the background also is attendees that can show reactions through emojis. So when something is going on, when they're talking, they send up hearts and smiley faces or laughing faces. And we had thousands of people come to this, actually. So this was more geared towards the VR XR community part of CES. So we had signage. If you scroll forward, we also had, if any good, we had these booths, these kiosks.
And that's you, right, Celeste? This is your
yeah, sorry, I'm double dipping. Because I produce, but I love music. So I love to DJ. And that's kind of how I got started in this whole thing, is actually DJing in the multiverse. But yeah, we booked 4 different DJs to perform in the lobby, and then we worked with Insomniac Events for the after party, and we worked with we had a couple after parties. So come on, it's Vegas, you got to do it.
Right. For those people that are tuning into this on an audio on replay, do come and check out the video version of this at like 29-30 minutes in, because these images that Celeste has sent over are doing a really, really good visual representation of what's possible. Celeste, I'll let you go back on. I just wanted to get that in there for those people.
No, we can scroll through this. Again, since this is geared towards the events community, I'm sure everyone knows that the conferences are big money makers, and also it's the exchange of information and commerce. And so this can actually happen in VR, and you can expand your audience from people that wouldn't normally travel to a physical conference or even want to attend, just see it on YouTube. The 2D gets old. The Zoom is getting old also. Can we just say, like, Zoom? Everyone has Zoom fatigue. So this is kind of like a fresh, fun new way to also be a fun cartoon character and design your avatar and wander around and connect with people. You kind of have to be a little bold. We had a red carpet area. Oh, by the way, for the events community, we have VR videographers that actually fly around to get footage. Some of them have drone privileges, so they can turn into tiny little drones and fly around. So you can literally walk up to a drone and be like, "Hey Bob, what's going on?" So this was a red carpet event with my bestie Diva Sonic. She's a phenomenal music producer and composer, and a VR fan.
more mingling. So this was kind of like a bit of a breakout space, expo hall kind of setup, right? Like
the Vegas lobby. Yeah, you look out the window, they did an exact replica of Vegas.
Oh, yeah, I can see
chicken
that.
waffle. And also the guy in the yellow and pink is Chris Crescitelli from Dreamland XR, and he's a long-standing member, really fun to work with. And he was the executive producer of the CES-sponsored Dreamland XR event in Altspace.
What I love is you can be so expressive, can't you, in terms of like what you look like, how you look, how you're representing yourself, how the brand of yourself. And I think that's why things like Fortnite and those other kind of gaming environments that some of this technology is built upon the back of, like, that's why they've been so successful, haven't they? Because they've been giving people an outlet to be able to go to something that's really engaging with the community, but also express themselves in the way that they want. So we've got some ice here though. So what was this one? How did people? This looks very cold.
James knows this because it's actually surprisingly fun to go ice skating or roller skating in virtual reality, and we do it frequently. And we have roller discos. This one was one of the after parties for CES, and we had an ice skating rink that was built, and we worked with the production team that built this. They're another team in across the metaverse that does phenomenal work. We had a DJ in the middle of this ring here, DJ Ski from Los Angeles. So we broadcast him live. If you look ahead, the video screen was actually him in a live broadcast while people were skating around the rink, laughing, toasting marshmallows. We had these sticks that you could hold up and put over the fire so it looked like you're toasting marshmallows. I mean, it's hilarious. That's the interactivity level is. People are so creative and hilarious, and it makes it fun to go in there and just pretend.
I love the poster outside the Matrix.
Wow.
Skating in VR outside the Matrix. So what's to me then it just seems that the only limitation is the imagination, right? And that's something that the events industry is not short of. Like, it's got it in buckets. Generally, the problem is the budget to match the dream, isn't it? Do you agree with that, Jay Will?
Definitely, I agree. So the limits are only by what your imagination is limited you to, and then that's it. I'm amazed, and I love to see new people come into VR because once they look around and they see what's going on, and then they go create these amazing things. I mean, anything you can think of has been created, and stuff that you've never thought of has been created in virtual reality. And again, a large part of it is we have lots of designers, as Celeste mentioned. There's a super young lady named Artsy, and and she does great work. And there's lots of folks in there. It's really limited toward in terms of budget. It's about what it's going to cost to create that asset, and they're reusable assets and reusable things. But it really depends on what you're looking for. A lot of folks come in and they want something totally unique, and that's totally fine. But again, we don't want to think it's like super expensive. For in most cases, a few $100, you're going to get this amazing space that you can do these amazing things for. And the cool thing for event producers and artists and DJs is it's not virtual money; it's real world money that that you're making. And what I've really loved during this,
or crypto.
I was just about. Thank you, Celeste. I was just
crypto.
about to say. I was stopping myself from saying it.
Yeah, crypto, definitely. Giving them an opportunity where they couldn't go out, but you're able to sit at home in your garage, in your basement, and still do an awesome set, the same one you would have done at the club, and still make an income. So I'm
going to now go off and set up the NFT digital version of a furniture and art and sculpture kind of supplier to digital events, because that's how I see it going. Like, all these people make tons of money, don't they, from supplying all the infrastructure, the design, the look and feel of physical events. I don't see why I can't do it in the digital realm. I'm sure I can.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and NFTs are coming into play with blockchain technology.
Yeah.
And it's, you always talk about disruption in the tech world, right? And it's inevitable. The disruption is this word that's it's gonna put us all out of work unless we move, unless we kind of innovate. It's just the way the world is working, but we have to fine tune it, right? We have to make sure it's inclusive and educate people about it. But yeah, NFTs, I think, are going to help to create equilibrium. Also for the music industry, I follow this because I write and release music. So making money has been increasingly challenging in the music world. So finding these new avenues has just been essential. And the innovation and technology has been just incredible, and a lot to wrap one's mind around. So there's a lot.
Also, I have to say that we have found some amazing artists in virtual reality. There are always showcases of talent, and we have seen some amazing vocalists, amazing performers. So I've really been blown away. And now what they've been able to do is we take someone from Philadelphia, and now you're sitting performing for a record company in LA in virtual reality. And these things happen on a weekly basis. So it's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, you can see why some of the predictions by some of the big firms at the moment are kind of quantifying where the event space is going. I mean, it's already $1 trillion industry. It's a big industry. It's kind of weirdly run by not that huge amount of people, but it's a big industry.
Growing rapidly.
But for me, the growth is going to come from people being to more cost effectively and accessibly launch their own events, launch their own concert, launch their own 3-hour DJ festival, launch something for themselves without the inherent risk of having to book a venue and caterers and logistics. And I mean, health and safety alone is enough to probably put anybody off actually organizing their own event most of the time. So for me, these technologies are they're going to rapidly expand our sector. And the quicker something grows, the more people that are using the technology, the technology generally gets better even quicker. So that means, the difference between what we're seeing now to what we might see in another decade, I just can't even, I don't even think I can look that far ahead and kind of visualize what it's going to be like.
Yeah, just let your imagination run wild.
On that point, I was just going to say, and you can carry on talking, Celeste. What I'd love to do is bring up another video that you've brought in that we've got to show, which is another. I hope my laptop doesn't fall over playing this, so we'll go. But I'm just going to add the video to the stream now because this is another representation of what you can do, right? With are you going to play? Please play. Is it playing? Do you guys see that? I don't see that. Do you?
No. If it's the concert series,
it is. It was the video that you sent me earlier. It's you DJing. That's what it is, Celeste.
Okay. Yeah. So I think something we can look at in the future that we're going to be seeing also for the music performance concert and festival industry is the subsequent VR experience of a festival that's already happening. So we might even see things like, say, for instance, Coachella. You can't go this year in real life, but you can buy a reduced rate ticket and go into virtual reality on a platform that's going to have the performers perhaps maybe having motion capture suits on or some kind of volumetric capture, the HoloLens. So you can actually see them perform in a different form. That's a little more high tech. And then that what's cool about that is also you can create environments around it. Like you can recreate Coachella, but you can put light shows up in the sky that you would never ever see. You can have interactive experiences like dragons flying around. The artist could also custom tailor it. Like, okay, so when I perform in VR, I want a giant lion to come up and like attack me. It's just so high tech. It's out of this world.
We partnered with Mushmouth Media and then put on an Edm Rave, which Celeste was a part of. It was a 14-hour rave,
marathon,
right? And so it was totally awesome. And what we had again someone from the Flock. DJ Nitzo, he created this world where there was, I don't know how many video screens it was, but it was sensory overload at best. But the whole facility was made up of these video screens. And so think about this light show, this EDM show, and you're seeing the DJ performer everywhere you look at every inch of space. And it was just a wild, crazy event. Loved it. It was super. Celeste definitely did her thing in that event. So we loved it.
Well, what we'll do, I know we didn't get that video to play there, but what we'll do is I'll get my video editor to overlay it while we were just speaking there, so everybody can get a real good look at what Celeste can do in those environments, and obviously another visual representation of what's possible with this technology. I think you kind of have to see it to really believe it. I think it's really good. Celeste, you've just sent me the link, so should we try and pull that up? Let's try and pull that up, see if we can get that to play as well. While I'm doing that, guys, where do you think people get started with this? Because for those that are maybe not as tech savvy as maybe us three in the room are here, it can be quite overwhelming. Like, does it start with research? Is there kind of education that you'd like to point people in the direction of? Like, what do you think is the best way to really get started with this type of event platform and stuff?
Yeah, first of all, having an open mind about this new technology and being receptive and tenacious to learn the technology to use it. Again, there is a slight learning curve, but most people, like even the less tech savvy, we have trained and come in to various platforms. So again, we are mostly, James and I are on AltSpace, so you can download an application for either Mac or PC. And there are all kinds of instructional videos online. I found a lot of members to go out of their way to help me if I'm new and really floundering. I've been so pleasantly surprised that people have come up to me and been like, "Hey, are you looking for help?" But they just come out of the woodworks. It's pretty cool. There's a couple. Also, if you really want to get into this, PC was first to the game. So if you have a PC, like a fast gamer type, this technology always appeals to people that were into video games because it kind of feels like you're in a video game. But you have VR goggles that plug into a PC, and you can use the more advanced programs with the phenomenal graphics like Sansar or Neos. We should talk about Roblox a little bit, because that's a big one with the kids, the teens right now, for music concerts and gaming.
So
Yeah.
are they building that themselves, the kids, or are the developers building it for the kids?
The kids are learning how to code, so the kids are learning how to build their own games. So it's actually Roblox is millions of members. It just kind of blew up, and now they have partnerships with different record labels and music companies for these large scale concerts that A-list artists come into and perform as avatars and in real life.
Yeah.
Can you blow up that video?
This
Adam?
one here, that's what I was just about to say. It says Roblox right here, doesn't it, as well? So it looks like actually partying in the Metaverse, which is your YouTube channel, is a great place to go and try and understand and start learning about this as well. Sorry, Jay, well, you were going to say.
No, you say definitely. I would definitely do research. A lot of the platforms have welcome centers, have introductory places that you can go. For example, Horizons. When you jump into Horizons, there's someone, an avatar there, someone there to help to specifically there to help you move along and to help you find out different areas of Horizons with Altspace. There's Campfire. Which is a pretty common place that people will go and can get help.
It's like a hub world. So you can always go back there. It's like a launch when you first get there. So it's the place where you first convene with fellow avatars, and then you can create portal experiences. So people say you found a world that you really like and you want to take everybody skydiving, right? So you can create the portal to skydiving world, and then people can latch onto it. You kind of go in. This is what, like, adventures in the metaverse. You go portal hopping with your friends to these new and different experiences. So.
Yeah, and I would say
mine's getting blown up here, guys. I'm like,
yeah, to go to different platforms with your friends, and there's different ways to move. There's different ways that you communicate, and find what's best for you. For us, Altspace, for being an event producer. For me, I think, and the research that we've done and from our experience, what separates the different platforms really, and what makes a great event, what makes an okay event to a great event is the connectivity with the people. That is the number one definite thing. There are lots of disconnected events. For example, there's an event and the artist never interacts really with the with the fans, with the participants, and it's more just like almost like a video. Right, and then people feel disconnected to that. In Altspace, you can really get connected with that artist, and when and the reason we do live events every week is when they see that DJ Celeste is live right here. And
it's from my studio. It's a video screen that's being broadcast into VR. So, and we can do that both ways. So the people on the outside can see what's going on in VR, and the people in VR can see what's going on the outside through video broadcast. So it's walking between worlds, and you get a little bit of both.
It's the metaverse.
It's the hybrid future we're all going to be living in. I love that. That's amazing. We'll try and grab some footage to overlay of that kind of experience as well from you, Celeste. Guys, big picture, blue ball. I'm asking you to look that decade into the future. Where do you think? I feel like you guys are going to be the rock stars of the metaverse world from the events industry. So I feel like I'm lucky that I've got you both on my show today before you're way too busy. But where do you think we're going to be in the next decade? Do you think we'll be talking about metaverse, or will this just be expected to be a part of the events industry? It'll be the norm.
I personally think it's going to be the norm, but I think it's going to be maybe a half and half, because we still need the physical interaction. There's certain things you can't do unless you're at a real conference physically. So I think we'll see a bit of both. But for public health, of course, if these pandemics become more of a norm, this is going to be like, this technology is going to take over fast. Don't you think, James?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see it being the norm, and all the things that we've read about as kids, what the future is going to look like, and the things that we've seen in movies. A lot of that stuff is true in VR, and the merging of those two worlds. I think it's just going to be seamless, and the expectation, right? And so with with kids and like my niece, nephew, picked up a device and started just because it's expected that there's that interactivity. They've never known a dial-up phone. You know what I mean? And so they've a rotary
I
dial.
think
So it's the
gamification.
expectation.
Also, with that expectation is gamification, because kids these days, they love, and it's fun as an adult. Like I like it when there's interactive games involved, and this is something that we can integrate into different experiences and events in the metaverse that makes it playful and fun to experience. So gamification and interactive activities that groups can do that you couldn't normally do in real life, like fly around. Like we do flying tours.
Yeah, it won't be the photo booth, the digital photo booth selfie. It will be the epic video fly through video that you got of your experience in these VR environments, right?
Yeah, you can hire a VR videographer to follow you around and document and give you a video at the end too. So
awesome. Well, guys, I know you're both super busy. I really appreciate you coming onto the show and talking to us about all these amazing things. I'm going to link in the show notes to as much of the stuff that you've mentioned, the platforms, your own sites, everything that people can check out with you. But where is the best place for somebody to connect up with you individually if they want to talk about, working with you or hiring you or just learning a little bit more about what we've been discussing? Celeste, where's the best place for you to get people to get in contact with you?
So I am guilty of being on Facebook way too often, but I'm Celeste. I'm Celeste Lear, so CELESTELEAR. I'm easy to find. I'm all over the place. So I have my DJ website, which is djcelestelear.com, with my email. Also, like mixes and videos of things that are going on in the metaverse and in real life. So Facebook's a good place. I'm on LinkedIn also. Feel free to reach out.
Jay, well, for you?
Okay, so website, www.vadvim.com, and just mention really quickly two big events coming up. The Hip Hop Film Festival coming up in August, really big event, great event. It's the emergence of music and film and virtual reality, and there's lots of stuff going on in the real world there. Queen Latifah is their GOAT this year. They're also helping us with our big event coming up here August 1st. Legendary Chuck D, Public Enemy, coming into VR. He is actually creating his own metaverse, if you will, in reality. So Chuck D, Public Enemy, August 1st, only in Altspace. And so very excited about that.
No excuse for anybody not to check that out, right? No travel restrictions. Thank you so much for coming on today, guys. For those that are watching or listening back, please do go up and connect up with Celeste and Jay Well. Check them out. Book them for your shows. Work with them. Hire them. They're clearly ahead of the game when it comes to this stuff. That brings us nicely to the end of the show, and we'll see you